Hey guys, Jeffrey from Headstrong Training Systems here. So today we're going to be taking a look at the squat, and in particular we're going to be looking at the squat from a side-on view, and we're going to be examining and breaking down instances which might be causing your bar path to fall forward. Now when I'm talking about your bar path falling forward, essentially what I'm talking about is we know that from a side-on view, what we tend to look at is usually the barbell. So we tend to look at the barbell at the end cap from a side-on view, and we try to, when looking to evaluate the efficiency of the squat, what we would ideally like to see is that the barbell remains over the midpoint of your body, so over your midfoot, and it travels straight down in a vertical line. It travels vertically straight down and vertically straight up. Now, well, the reason we want that is basically we want the barbell to travel in the path of least resistance. When the barbell starts to dump forward or dump back, that means that there's extra range of motion occurring and there's extra corrections that we have to perform in order to stabilize and recover from those positions. So if you see that from a side view, you see that your barbell starts to collapse or dump forward as you're performing the eccentric phase, essentially dropping down. Today we're going to be going through a few scenarios which might be really the reason why that barbell is dumping forward. So just to clarify, make sure that we're all on the same page. Essentially what I'm talking about is you're breaking at the squat, you're coming down, and as you're coming down, you've got a rotation or you've got a dumping of that barbell forward. You see that essentially that barbell, it rotates forward and then it comes back to normal. So as you're going down, initially it's over that midfoot, but as you're going down, it starts to go forward, and then at that bottom position, you're a lot forward or very over that the midfoot. Then you have to recover as you come back up. So the first cause why you might see that your barbell is in front of your midfoot is essentially it might be a positioning issue or might be a lack of mobility issue. If you see that one side, it might be rotated further. So right now I've consciously rotated my right side forward, and you can see that right now in this position, that barbell is, my right side barbell is over my midfoot. And so from this position, if I was to squat down, you see that that barbell remains over the front of my foot and it goes back up. And so, however, in this position, the reason that it appeared that the barbell was in front of my midfoot, in front of my center of mass, was because from my starting position, I was already asymmetrical. So I was already asymmetrical from the starting position because quite simply, one side was more rotated from the other. It could just be an unconscious rotational issue from the start, or it could be a lack of shoulder mobility on one side leading to the barbell being front. Now, the next variable which might be causing your barbell to actually dump during the lift is when there's a continuous collapsing of the torso. And what I mean by that is we know that during the squat movement, there needs to be an element of natural torso lean occurring in order for us to maintain neutrality and maintain midfoot. Now, the issue arises where that initial lean occurs at the initial break, but then continues on for the entirety of the lift and it isn't maintained. So whenever we're going to squat, we know that we want to have that initial lean occur at the initial break, and then we get into a nice lean angle, and then this angle will maintain throughout the squat movement. However, if this angle isn't maintained and rather the lifter consciously continues to lean throughout the entirety of the lift, so they're leaning all the way down, you can see that now the barbell is starting to drift in front of me and it's going to fall in front of my midfoot. So that's a potential reason why your bar path might be dumping forward. It might be because you haven't maintained your angle and instead you're just collapsing the whole way down. Now the next reason why you might see that barbell dump forward is if you are too toe dominant. And what I mean by that is wherever we apply pressure through our foot, so either our toe, our midfoot, our heels, that's where we're going to bias, that's where the body's going to bias. So if we're squatting down and we're biasing a lot of our force, our center of mass in an anterior direction, so throughout the toes, what's going to happen is as you're going down, you're loading force there, your whole body is also going to shift forward. And so you can see that there's a whole shift of their body forward, and attached to the body is your barbell. And so that's why that barbell is probably going to shift forward as well. So what that looks like in action is I've got here my lovely starting position. I'm squatting down, but now I'm applying force throughout my toes. I'm biasing to my toes. And you can see straight away that barbell and my whole body is shifting forward. And so you see that because I've biased force into my toes, that's caused that barbell to dump forward. Now, the final reason that barbell dump might be occurring is if you're biasing too heavily into the heels. Now we're going to the opposite extreme in the opposite direction. Now you might be thinking, but that doesn't make sense. If biasing into the toes is what causes that body to dump forward, how come going in the opposite direction is also causing a dumping? Now the reason for that is correction. It is very difficult and almost impossible and very inefficient for the body to maintain a very toe dominant or heel dominant position, and so at extreme ranges. So if you're biasing extremely heavily into the hips and trying to overcorrect, what's going to happen is as you're sinking down, you're pushing back so much that in this bottom position where your body is under the most force, your body is going to subconsciously overcorrect, and then that overcorrection is essentially trying to push you back forward into a nice balanced position. But because there's load and there's force and momentum going down, that correction is going to likely overcorrect, and it's going to push you further past that midfoot. So what that might look like is right now I'm in my lovely starting position, I'm squatting down, I'm biasing very heavily into the hips, pushing back further a lot, but then I'm running out of room here, I'm not balanced, and so there's going to be that overcorrection. You see, it's like kind of an overcorrection forward where essentially my whole body curves down and my whole body shifts forward, and so does that barbell. So today we've gone through a few of the reasons of when you're looking at your squat from a side-on view and you see that essentially your barbell is dumping forward, your torso is dumping forward, and you can associate that with an inefficient squat movement pattern. Today we've gone through a few of the variables which might be linked to as causes for that squat dumping movement. So hopefully you guys can really strip it down and kind of analyze your movement pattern to pick out what the cause is. Hopefully that was helpful for you, and I'll catch you guys next time. Take care.